that I'll add right off the bat is how clear it is to me that, yes, we have this love triangle trope, but the director, I believe her name is Celine, and I'm forgetting her last name, and I looked it up, but I can her intention with wanting to use this trope and turn it on its head, I think is very clear. How effectively she does that, I think, is up for debate, but to me, it's really interesting how she's trying to turn this trope on its head, because we've seen the trope of like stuck up rich girl picks lowly man time and time again, right? Like Titanic, Aladdin, The Notebook, any Hallmark Christmas movie ever. Like we know this, and I think it's interesting because us as a society tends to kind of enjoy that trope and wants to live in a world where love does win. Like, that is the thing that we value. And yet, culturally, this movie rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially women my age and my generation. And I think it's interesting to explore why that is. And I think that the director in this love triangle didn't do the thing that other love triangles do, where they villainize the man with means, right? Where it's like, oh, not only is he rich, but he's disrespectful, doesn't understand the girl, rude. And it's like, well, why would she pick him? There's absolutely no reason to besides the money. And in Materialists, it's sure, maybe there's not love there, but he's not a bad guy. He takes care of her. He seems to have an interest in her. They have interesting conversations, and maybe they're not a perfect value match in terms of their ethics and outlook on life, but he's not a villain. And I really enjoyed that setup. And I think the beginning of the movie is definitely its strongest. The other piece in terms of plot that I think is really interesting is the matchmaker stuff that we see, and the scenes of Dakota Johnson's character, the main character, talking to people about what they want. And the reason why maybe she has some of these more cynical outlooks on love and life is because she's entrenched in that. Like, it's literally her job to deal with what people want from other people in relationships materially. Like, that is her job. And I do think there's a commentary about like how money potentially changes you. And it's also interesting to see what people are willing to sacrifice on versus not. And of course, this is all written and fictionalized, so how accurate these things are is up for opinion and debate. But I found a lot of it to be pretty accurate and insightful in my experience about men wanting women significantly younger than them and women wanting men that make significantly more than them and are tall. You know, it's like that is certainly something that we see. Yeah. So I think that's what I'll add in terms of overview of plot basics.
Okay. No, I think that all of that makes very good sense. I'm curious, so I think an interesting, let's start there maybe and talk about the character of Sophie. So Lucy's client, and again, this is the client who eventually does have a nasty situation occur where there was sexual assault of some sort, and there's not a lot of graphic details about it, but apparently the guy that she was, the gentleman that she was hooked was matchmade. One of the gentlemen she was matchmade with assaulted her at her place, again, details aren't there, but before then, there's a lot of conversation around settling for an imperfect partner. And Sophie's 39 years old. And to me, she represented the pressure on women to settle, essentially. You're 39,
Yeah.
you should be married. The biological clock. And again, this is me coming from perhaps what society says. So I'm really
Right,
curious,
right.
you know, as 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 a young woman who is, in the dating scene, what are your thoughts on the settling, on that
Yeah,
conversation prior to the incident as she's trying to find
yeah.
somebody for?
Yeah, I do think one of my main problems with the movie this question really taps into, which is the fact that being single is not presented as an option, um, which I just
Mm.
have such an issue with in my personal life that is a completely valid active choice that anyone, man, woman, or non binary individual can make. And that is a valid choice to make. And it is just so often left off the table and not entertained. And I think Sophie's character absolutely illustrates this idea that, well, the clock is ticking, so you have to do something because you're going to be alone. You're not going to have kids. You are going to be a spinster. And not to say that wanting to have a partner is wrong or bad. And I think it's clear that Sophie does want a partner. But for me, if I was Sophie's friend, perhaps, I would maybe pose, why do you really want a partner? And let's start there, not with what are the qualities that you need in a partner, you know, because we can come up with a laundry list of idealized things that would be great to have in a person that you legally bind yourself to for life. But why? What is it about a partner that you are desiring? And is there something you can change about your relationship with yourself to serve some of those needs first that then make finding a partner not just easier, but healthier? So I think her character really does represent this desire that a lot of women feel um, to have someone who just sees them and supports them. It's like, I don't even need a perfect guy. I just want someone who is on my team. And I think a lot of women don't feel like they have someone on their team to take care of them. Um, and I think it's interesting that this is one of Lucy's problem clients, right? Because to me, she very much is the most average of the clients, the most typical of what we would come across, because all of the other clients do seem very much like New York elite and a little bit more like picky, a little bit more, this is my, uh, hard line in the sand. And Sophie's a little bit more, I just want someone normal and nice and fine. And she's a problem client. And I found that narrative really interesting, but I do think that that's really accurate because these clients that are maybe a little bit more materialistic are going to be matched with people that are more materialistic. Whereas someone like Sophie, who clearly is looking for something at least a little bit more genuine and authentic, matchmaking companies probably aren't good at dealing with genuine, authentic clients. And so it's going to be a little bit harder to match her with someone genuine and authentic. And I think there is so much narrative around chop, chop, hurry up, you got to get a partner. And that was actually something that I found really profound about my experience in watching the movie. I went with a group of girlfriends, and the single girlfriends that were there, we all really resisted the movie and kind of had some issues with it. The girlfriends that were in relationships loved this movie. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, thoughts. What do you think? I know that obviously you don't have the perspective of being a woman yourself, but you have a daughter and are in a relationship or married, and how do you perceive that being communicated to young women? And as a man, what would you prefer the narrative is that women are told.
Wow. That's a there's a lot
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Um, uh, wow, God, I need a second to think about that.